Just a little update on trying to establish what this is. There is another guy right here, and he is very clearly marked 1 microfarad 1000 volts. So I stuck that on the capacimeter, and that one seems to be okay, or at least good enough. So A, I'm going to leave this second one in here, and B, I'm pretty sure I know what that is. What I'm going to do to replace it, no idea. Okay, bit of a recapping update. So what I've done is, you can obviously clearly see the ones that I've replaced. But I've got to the point now where I've run out of the values that I need, so I've ordered up some new caps, and those nice folks at Just Radios seem to have 1 microfarad and 2 microfarad caps, so I've ordered a few up. We'll see what they look like. So I lifted the leg of each cap basically and measured them on the old capacitance meter, and any of them that were close I didn't replace, and so anything that you see here that's original measured okay. Anything that's been replaced basically measured way off, double, triple the value, or nothing at all. And so yeah, one other thing that I really just thought I'd comment on in terms of how quality has changed over the years is there were metal brackets which hold the chassis together and mount it into the cabinet, and like normally in any cabinet you'd find, this would be just spot welded on, but here it's got a locating metal stud on one side and then a screw, so you can remove this to access this part of the chassis, and then you can just bolt it back in when you're done. Definitely don't see that these days. Sound like an old guy now, don't I? Okay, so I think I've probably got to a point where I have to wait now until I get some of those caps arrive. The other little disappointing thing is this cable here, which essentially goes from the audio output stage to the audio output transformer. The wires inside are disintegrated, and so as you move this wire you can hear them all crack and break inside. So unfortunately I'm going to have to redo this cable, which is a real shame because it's really well done. So what I'm going to try to do is preserve the outer casing here and just replace the wires inside if I can. Don't know if I can do that or not, but I'm going to give that a shot. It's going to take a little while, unfortunate, but hey, there you go. It can't get left the way it is. It's just too much of a risk, because underneath the coating of these wires is just a little bit of cotton strand, and so the likelihood these guys would short out over time is very high, so can't take that risk. Okay, the only thing I haven't done yet is the 2 electrolytics, so I guess I can move on and get that done while I'm waiting for the other caps to arrive. So what I'll just temporarily do for the electrolytics is I'll just isolate them and then tag on the replacements, and then once the set's working I'll look at restuffing the caps properly. I started to have a look at this cable that goes to the audio output transformer, and so the fabric outer coating here is bound at the end, so I cut off the binding and then loosened it all up, and my hope was that I could just get 4 replacement wires and pull them through and keep this outer casing. I'm not too sure, because there is also just a series of these fabric, if you like, cords or strands of cotton to flesh it out to make it nice and round, and I'm not sure I'd be able to do all the intertwining, but I don't know if you can see it, but this one here, which is yellow, is one of the wires is going from the audio output tube, and that's completely crumpled away basically. Anyway, I'll pull the wires out and hang on to this guy, and we'll see if we can retain it and put the new wires through it and have it look halfway decent. This is the other end of the cable. This one goes to the power supply. This one goes to the plate of the audio output tube, and you can see that it's all crumpled away. So can't leave that like that. Gotta replace that. Okay, so here's my attempt at replacing the innards of that cable. So I'm reasonably happy with the result. I've managed to keep the outer covering, which will preserve its, if you like, original look. It's got new internal cables. Just soldered them all together at one end so I could pull it through. And then to tie off, to get the same look as I had before, I used some dial cord to tie off the ends, and then just put a little bit of super glue to stop the whole thing unraveling. So yeah, so far so good. And the same at the other end. So we'll get that fitted back in, and that'll be that sorted out. Okay, so one end of the audio output cable is now refitted. Some of this white wire is not to the original place. Originally it went down here across to a chassis point underneath that is really difficult to get at. So I thought I'll leave it long in case I have stability problems or anything, and I just tagged it to a chassis point that's much easier to get at. Yeah, while doing it I found another cap that I'd forgotten. So this guy right here with a resistor in parallel, and the cap was had gone way high. So yeah, so that's replaced, and the other end of the audio output cable will mount to the transformer, and I may put a Molex on it like I've done on some other projects to make it easier to disconnect the chassis from the cab in the future. Right, I think at this point we're waiting for spares. I think I need to get this cap out of here as well, but I'll do that when the replacements arrive. And while I was at it, I replaced the Y2 line to ground caps. The ones that were there, well, they measure high, but they measure okay, but hey, no point taking a risk with stuff like that. So this is one of the electrolytics. I thought I'd have a look at stuffing it. The crimped end here went very, very close to the threaded portion of the cap here. So I thought it'd be better to just cut the crimp off all around and then pull out the end cap. However, this thing is built like to military standard or something, because I cut off the crimp. Then I discovered that this end cap was actually glued in, epoxy of some sort, and underneath that is a strong rubber seal. And when I get finally to the paper and the wax or whatever inside here, this thing is stuffed solid. There's not a lot of drying out or anything in here, so yeah, not sure how I'm going to get that out, but we'll heat it up and see if we get anywhere. Well, perseverance wins out in the end. I did manage to get the rest of the junk out, so at least I don't have to worry about any residual chemicals sitting in there. So let's hope the other one isn't quite as challenging as this one. I did unfortunately break the cap getting this out, so there's a a big chunk of it busted off, so I've re-glued that. I'm letting that set up, and then I'll have to file off the back here and drill a hole through so I can bring the capacitor lead out to where I can solder it, and then we can put it back together. Okay, so here is the cap of the old cap of the electrolytic. I drilled a tiny hole through the aluminium rivet to get to the solder tag, and the positive is soldered to the tag. The negative is just bent over to the side. So when I plop it into the case, it'll fit. It's slightly off center because this originally had a rubber seal around here, but I don't need the rubber seal. And I'll just epoxy this in, clean it up, and we'll be good to go. Right, let's hope emptying the other one isn't quite such a challenge. One down, one to go.